Questions of Doom. Hello and welcome back to another Questions of Doom. In this series, as ever, I attempt to answer questions that you send my way using the archaeosoup@gmail.com email address, as displayed on the YouTube channel homepage, but as you'll also see at the end of this video. In answering these questions by video, it is my fond hope that the answer is not only useful to the person who has asked the question, but also anyone else out there who may be wondering the same thing. Now, today's video, to be honest, was a bit of an opportunity for me to play with my latest investment for Archaeosoup, and that is a lovely new lighting rig. But crucially, it's also a wonderful opportunity to try and answer some frequently asked questions that you guys send to me here at Archaeosoup Towers. Now, these frequently asked questions, they range from very serious questions to slightly silly questions, but nonetheless they have been coming in over the years and multiplying. And ironically enough, the most common frequently asked question is, are there any frequently asked questions? And might I ever get round to answering them? So here you go, that's the most frequently asked question answered in the form of a video at the very least, or rather this video is answering that. So I suppose, first of all, or rather, kicking this off, the first question I'd like to try and answer is, where did you study archaeology, which degree did you get, and what was your dissertation topic? I have mentioned this in passing in other videos on this YouTube channel, but I studied archaeology at the University of Durham. I graduated in 2007 with a first class honours degree. I did the arts degree, so I got a Bachelor of the Arts, and my dissertation topic was actually on unitary action in the past. In other words, the potential effect of individual thought and observation in the past. Now, it sounds a bit strange, but not everyone agrees that people in the past behaved as individuals. There's a concept of individuality, and various other types of identity. And my dissertation was an attempt to not necessarily argue for individuals as we would understand them in the past, but rather to try and accept and in some way model and explore the fact that we exist in individual bodies, as it were, and that these standpoints, these platforms for observation will have an effect on how we view society, and therefore how we interact with society, and therefore the shape of that society as made up of people who have, for example, individual bodies, individual life experience, individual mental capacities, and also memories and experiences. So my dissertation was on that. It's quite dry in that sense, but also actually very, very interesting, very exciting to research, and it did rather well actually. I won't say what mark it got, but it got a very good mark. So anyway, that's that question answered. The second question that I'd like to try and answer is, how often do I get to dig? Well, I don't get to dig as often as I'd like, I have to say. In the past couple of years, I've been so busy with Archaeosoup, I haven't really done any actual digging. I've done site visits, which have been lovely and really reminded me that I want to dig more. But also as well, before Archaeosoup, essentially after university, it was a case of I didn't have the money. More often than not, unless you're directly employed by a digging company, by a unit, you have to essentially pay for the experience, pay for the voluntary experience on a dig site. I just didn't have the cash for that. That said though, this April, at the end of April, I'll be digging with Project Nightingale down in South Wales, and I'm really looking forward to getting back out there. As I say, it has been a couple of years, but I have also done quite a bit of digging myself, but I'll come back to that in a later question. So in answer to that question, not as often as I'd like, but hopefully with increasing regularity in the near future. Another question is, what's your favourite period? My favourite period of history? Well, it depends on when you ask me, and I have answered this to a certain extent in a previous video, but it's worthwhile just touching on the fact that I suppose my favourite period actually tends to shift around. I'm not really a period obsessive, as it were. It tends to be really what I'm working on at that time. I tend to really dive into a certain area or era and try and learn as much as I can about it. This means, yes, I am more of a jack of all trades than an absolute master of one thing. But then again, I don't really have the time or the room in my library to add books which would make me a master, say, in a certain type of pot from Bulgaria in the Neolithic. So I suppose what I'd say is it tends to shift around. At the moment, I'm really enjoying actually researching Aztecs, and also the Edwardians and World War I, doing a lot of work on that at the moment, but we'll come back to that. What's my favourite type of find? Oh, good question. Well, my favourite type of find, I suppose, is one which reveals lots of interesting information about people or about a site. It's not really a category of find, like, for example, organics or pottery or building material or post holes or whatever features. It's more if a find really, if you can really get into a moment in time, that's my favourite type of find. So I once dug in York a rubbish pit which had been filled with the detritus from a comb making workshop, a Viking comb making workshop, and it seems that one day the lease perhaps on the house had ended, on this workshop had ended, so someone came in, shifted all the stuff off the bench and just shoved it into a pit, because I don't make combs, you know, I'm going to be selling buttons, this kind of thing. So what went into the rubbish pit was representative of every stage of making a comb. So what we actually had was everything from raw bits of antler through to nearly finished composite combs. That for me was a wonderful find, because it was a story. It was a story of how to make a comb, but also that moment when clearly this workshop was just cleared out, and even if the stuff was valuable, everything went in the bin, because whoever was doing the cleaning out just had no time for it. Could have been a bereavement, who knows? But yeah, that's my favourite type of find anyway. Are there opportunities to volunteer with ArchaeoSoup? There are opportunities to volunteer, but what I would say is that what I'm trying to do, or what I really love to do with ArchaeoSoup, is to offer experiences which I would have loved to have had as a student. I'm now in a position, or starting to get into a position, where we're more and more busy, and I would really like to be able to share some of the things that I've learned with people who want to add to their CV. So yes, there are opportunities to get involved. This ranges from an upcoming digital internship, which me and Reese are actually starting to write, and should be finished in the next couple of months, i.e. the structure of that. But also as well, all the way through to just sharing information, offering maybe to write an article, or even submit a short video to the YouTube channel. There's lots of opportunities for you to get involved, and also to highlight local heritage issues around you. So yes, there are, and please definitely do get in touch if you're interested. Do we have plans to start a field school or an excavation experience? Right now, no. We definitely would love to do in the not too distant future a community excavation. That is a dig, probably here in Wallsend actually, where people can come along and get involved and help us to uncover a site, and then be involved in the post-excavation, learning about what's happened on this particular site and with this dig. But as it stands, because of how busy we are at ArchaeoSoup at the moment, and also because of my aforementioned lack of recent digging experience, that's not going to be happening necessarily this summer. Though Reese and I are potentially thinking of doing something next summer, so watch this space for that. Oh, incidentally as well, sorry, as far as digging school, field school, you have to, in my opinion, one has to be a qualified teacher in order to do that. So I'd much rather go through, for example, the Adult Learning Alliance and get the right qualifications before I went ahead. So those things are all sort of up in the air, but very much are planned. So yeah, as I say, watch this space. What is your current filming setup? That's a common question, and actually I received an email to this effect over the weekend. For common filming setups, well, my current filming setup, my common filming setup, my usual filming setup is to use this camera, which is a Canon 650D with a 18-135mm STM digital lens, a Rode video mic, which is the thing that you can hear my voice through, and depending on the circumstances, some sort of lighting. So until recently I had a daylight lamp which I would use, and very recently I just purchased, as I say, the aforementioned lighting rig. So that's my usual setup, my common setup, as it were. My current whole range of gear, though, includes, in addition to those, a Panasonic HCV500 1080p camcorder, which is quite nice. A Samsung Go mic, which is what I'd use to do voiceovers on videos. In fact, I can demonstrate that for you now. And here I am speaking on the microphone with a pop filter in front. So there you go. And also I use a program called Power Director 11 at the moment for my editing, but I aim to upgrade that to a slightly different program in the near future. So that's my I suppose my setup in general. I also have several tripods. I'm always purchasing new tripods and various ways of transporting equipment, and yeah, it's a growing collection. But anyway, that's a common question answered. What am I currently researching? Well, I'm currently researching lots of things, for lots of projects in the local area. So, for example, at the moment, for the most part, it's local history or World War I history for local schools or museums, this kind of thing. For videos, I'm actually, this afternoon I'll be doing some research on colours in the past, so the archaeology of colour and the use of colour in clothing, in jewellery, art, so on and so forth, the significance thereof as well, of colour. I'm also researching a video about an aspect of archaeology about the Pompeii premise, which is an interesting, if slightly, I don't know, slightly convoluted argument that happened a wee while ago, and for some people continues to happen in archaeology, as to whether or not there is such thing as a Pompeian premise in archaeology, the idea that we just interpret sites as we find them, as if they're all Pompeii. But anyway, so that's what's on my plate right now. So Pompeii, colours, or rather Pompeii premise, colours, and also, for the most part, World War I. What's more important for archaeology, imagination or knowledge? Well, I would say that imagination is crucial in archaeology. If you can't imagine what the fragments, the remnants that you're uncovering, what they mean, then you're not going to get very far in terms of, I suppose, getting much out of archaeology. You may well become an excellent digger, but you won't be able to necessarily understand what you're digging and develop that skill. Or indeed as an interpretive archaeologist or as a theoretical archaeologist, you need to have imagination. That said though, imagination without knowledge is speculation and can lead to rather dangerous fringe archaeological ideas. For example, horns on helmets, so on and so forth. You know, it's a very imaginative idea, but without the knowledge, all you're doing is speculating and essentially writing a fiction. So I would say actually they're both equally important, imagination and knowledge. Do you have any professional partners? Yes, Archaeosoup has a few professional partners, essentially museums and archaeological and heritage interest groups, usually in the northeast of England, but also actually across the country, and indeed internationally. We've got a few people who we work with, for example, obviously in Australia, also in the US. I'm very happy to say that all of these relationships are very fruitful, and I really enjoy making connections with different museums, different people, different interests, different specialisms. So yes, we do have professional partners, but not really in the same way that you know, a multinational company might do. So I won't necessarily go into who they are and how we work with them, but yes, we do. Yes. What's your next big project? Well, my next big project, or Archaeosoup's next big project, is probably going to be filming a little drama in North Shields and the Beamish Museum. So we're going to be filming something to do with World War One, which some primary school children will have written, all about someone deciding to go off to war and the effects of that, and I'm very much looking forward to doing it. In fact, that's part of the reason why I bought this lighting rig, because the Beamish houses can be rather dark. Beamish is an excellent place, by the way, if you haven't been there. It's an open-air museum where buildings are essentially saved, so even prefabs from the Second World War have been sort of boxed up, and with money donated to the museum, they're reconstructed in this valley landscape. It's a wonderful place. Why are you on Hadrian's Wall and not in Wales still? Sometimes I do ask myself that very same question, but no, only joking. Basically, it's three main reasons. The first one is I moved back to the northeast, having gone to university here, in order to get married to Mrs. Soup. And she had a job, or has a job rather, in a local hospital, and it was just a very good job. You know, she couldn't move away from that, so I moved up from where I was living at the time in York to come and live on the wall, as it were, on Wallsend, Hadrian's Wall. The second reason is because actually we both love the northeast. Both Mrs. Soup and I enjoy the culture, we love the people, we love the chattiness of the people, very similar to home for both of us actually in North Wales and in Northern Ireland. So that's the second reason. And the third reason actually is because it's just a wonderful place to be as an archaeologist. You're very close to national parks. Obviously there's Hadrian's Wall, there's also the Northumberland sort of range of historical sites and monuments. There's also various universities in the area, museums that I can work with. Basically, Hadrian's Wall and Wallsend is just a wonderful place to be as an archaeologist, and also as well, obviously, for ArchaeoSoup. So those are the three main reasons that I'm here and not back in Wales. This actually leads on to another very common question: how did I meet Mrs. Soup? I met Mrs. Soup, or rather we met each other, sorry, on a blind date. Essentially a friend of ours was convinced that we'd get on. Both of us being slightly curmudgeonly, we refused to believe that was the case. No. And then unfortunately we did get on and we got married. So to this day I'm slightly frustrated that our friend knew us so well. But that said though, I don't regret it for a moment. It's been wonderful getting to know and then getting married to Mrs. Soup. So, and now having a wonderful home blissful life. So yes, that's how we met. It was a blind date by the suggestion of a mutual friend who at the time was living with Mrs. Soup in Halls. Mrs. Soup was doing a master's at Durham. So let's just see if there are any other questions here. Oh, what's my favourite Indiana Jones? Oh, my favourite Indiana Jones. I'd have to say, controversially, not one of the films. My favourite Indiana Jones thing, you know, sort of a feature-length televisual or screen product, as it were, is actually an episode from the Young Indiana Jones Adventures, where he joins the fledgling photographic unit in the First World War when he's flying over areas, taking pictures, and it's a really nice insight into that. I suppose into an exciting development which came out of a horrific time. Obviously flight and more common use of flight, but also photography and the use of photography for surveillance, and also actually frankly eventually being used in archaeological research. If it wasn't for those guys doing that, we wouldn't really have aerial photography and aerial survey as we understand it today. So that's probably my favourite Indiana Jones, as it were. My favourite film though, main film, I would have to say is probably the first one, I think. Probably Raiders of the Lost Ark. Let's just see, are there any more questions? Finally, the last question, which I did save until last, is this a real beard? Well, yes. Yes, this is a real beard. I'm not Santa Claus. This is definitely a real beard. So there you go, folks. Those are the frequently asked questions that people have been sending over the years. I decided to collate them together and answer them to the best of my ability, or to the extent to which I feel comfortable in terms of giving away details and this kind of thing, especially about mine and Mrs. Soup's life, as it were. But those are the frequently asked questions. Hopefully you've found this video useful and or interesting, and this has been a great opportunity for me to play with the new light. Anyway, as ever, until next time, do take care. Bye bye.